The Minister of Aviation, Hadi Sirika, says Nigeria Air will begin flight operations soon. It is despite a court order restraining the federal government and other parties from executing the proposed national carrier. The minister says the federal government is at the point of sealing the last move in obtaining the air operator certificate to enable the national carrier start flying. Speaking to State House correspondents on Wednesday, Sirika confirmed that the aircrafts are ready. He also announced an approval of over 720 billion naira for the maintenance and technical support at Malam Aminu Kano International Airport in Kano for a period of 12 months.
We are at stage 5 of the AOC issuance by NCAA. And once that is done, the airline will begin to fly. So there are 5 stages. We've done stage 1, 2, 3, 4, and we are now at stage 5. Once the AOC is given, the aircraft is ready to start flying. The issuance of the AOC is in the hands of NCAA, but I know it will be very, very, very soon, with the emphasis on soon. So as soon as we get the AOC, then we fly.
Hadi Sirika, Minister of Aviation in Nigeria. So what does this development mean for the aviation industry at large? Let's bring in Roland Iyayi, who is the former MD and CEO of the Nigerian Airspace Management Agency. Thank you so much for joining us on the news tonight.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much for
Well, I know you're here to respond to what the minister said on Wednesday during the course of the week. And he says, you know, we are ready to fly soon. Emphasis on soon. What is the likelihood of NCAA not issuing or issuing the AOC? I'm asking this because we have seen in the past where the NCAA refused to issue an AOC for, I think it was Nigerian Eagle at that time. So what do you think?
Thank you very much for having me. It's not really what I think. It's what we know. As at the end of January, Nigeria Air has only been able to go through the first 2 phases of a 5-phase air operator certification process. So as we speak, Nigeria Air is actually in phase 2 of that process. So the minister alluding to a phase 5 would mean or presupposes that Nigeria Air actually has aircraft on the ground. They have done 100 hours of demonstration flights. The Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority has certified their structures, their personnel, named post holders and all the rest. All these things would have been done before that stage is gotten to. So at phase 5 is actually the issuance of the certificate, and not having done all of these other processes I've mentioned would mean that invariably something is wrong somewhere. If the minister is saying they're at phase 5, then it would mean that that phase 5 was gotten to in the last 2 weeks.
Are you saying the minister is now aware of what's happening under his own ministry?
Well, I mean, the NCA is an autonomous body, albeit an adjunct agency under the Ministry of Aviation. But the NCA is actually an autonomous agency. They're supposed to act independent of the ministry because they're actually the regulator in the industry. So the minister and Nigeria Air actually should be subject to all the regulations of the CAA. So they're not really, the ministry or Nigeria Air is not a special case to be taken in such a way that the NCA would just go ahead and issue an AOC. And by the way, that statement by the Minister of Aviation is very reckless. Reckless to the extent that it impugns on the integrity of the Civil Aviation Authority. Because the entire world is watching. You know, if you're saying that the NCA is going to issue an AOC to Nigeria Air for a 5-stage process, which they've only been able to do 2 so far, and they have not, the second phase is not even concluded, then of course it means that something is happening that we're not even aware. Now, the court had said that everything about this process should be halted until the determining, the case before it is determined. So if the minister is saying now that the airline is going to go ahead and fly, it presupposes that before now, a lot of things were happening, without the knowledge of the public. And that said, That would be in contempt of a court order. So invariably, what we see here is a statement made by a minister, impugning on the integrity of the Civil Aviation Authority. It will mean that the entire world would look at the airlines operating in Nigeria and say that, the certification process that is done by the Civil Aviation Authority is not thorough. And that itself is not in the good light for the entire industry.
Particularly for the NCAA itself, as a regulator of that industry.
Very well.
But why is it so difficult in this part of the world, in Nigeria, to get, Air Nigeria?
To get Nigeria?
Air Nigeria, to have our own national carrier.
I don't think there's anything difficult about having a Nigerian Air. I mean, Nigeria Air, if you say that, because it boils down to what the people want. What the reason the AON, like I said, we said before, we're not averse to a national carrier. Let's be very clear. But we are averse to having a private entity, in the words of a minister, being funded by taxpayers' money. We are averse to a situation where you are creating a playing field that is not level. You are creating a distortion in the market with the outcome, ultimately, that will mean that some domestic carriers will be killed off. And those domestic carriers are actually people who have invested their hard-earned money to set up airlines that you're now coming in to use taxpayers' money to kill off. So what we are saying is, if you want to have a national carrier, by all means, all well and good, but let us have everything done on a level playing field, and let's have the same standards that all the other airlines are exposed to be held, so that we don't have a situation where, you come up with, whatever it is you're looking to do, and then, of course, what it will mean is, creating a distortion in the market, killing off domestic carriers. Ultimately, the consumers will suffer, because when you have airlines, exit the market now, there will be a dearth of capacity. And what happens? Fares will go up. Ordinarily, I mean, if you have capacity, you have consumers being able to choose, then fares probably will come down. But where there's a shortage of capacity, it's a demand and a supply issue. Where there's a shortage of capacity, fares will go up.
Some people, some aviation experts and watchers say, why is the Nigerian aviation industry, particularly the airline operators, not thinking of mergers and acquisitions and the rest, so that you'll be able to, be a national carrier that we lack today?
Well, again, when you say a national carrier, that presupposes that it's owned by the government, because a national carrier is actually a state-owned enterprise. All the current operators are privately owned.
Yeah.
So if you designate them to fly international, they become flag carriers. Nigeria Air, at the end of the day, when it's sort of completely done, if the minister is able to go through with it, would be a flag carrier, not a national carrier, because it is owned by individuals. The federal government owns only 5% of it. Ethiopian holds 49% by the present structure, and then of course there's some opaque ownership to the rest of the 46 or 49% that we're talking about.
Not known to the public?
We're not even sure who they are, because what we have seen by way of the documents submitted for the bid would indicate that there's a consortium that bidded, and that consortium comprises Ethiopian Airlines, MRS, and SACOL. Now, the three of them are supposedly holding 49%. But again, we now have a situation where SACOL and MRS are supposedly holding 46% as institutional investors, and then the federal government holding 5%. So that opacity, in the ownership structure of the airline itself is a problem.
Okay. You say you're not averse to having a national carrier or a flag carrier, as you've explained. Well, some will interpret this to mean a lack of cooperation between the Ministry of Aviation and the operators in the industry. And what do you say to that? And what does it portend for the industry if the Minister of Aviation and the airline operators of Nigeria do not see face to face?
No, we do see face to face. We've had discussions on the matter, except of course we cannot seem to agree on his approach. What we say clearly is this: the minister, and by the way, Nigeria Air has a managing director. So it's rather curious that the minister is the one, the spokesperson for Nigeria Air.
Who should be?
There's a managing director, Captain Dapolumide.
Okay.
I expect him to be the one coming to the public to tell the public where they are, what they're doing, and how they're going about doing it, not the minister. So for me, the minister coming forward to say, this is where we are with it, I mean, he's told us that this is a private enterprise. He said it time and again. So if it's a private enterprise, why use taxpayers' money to fund it?
720 billion now is going to...
Well, again, how do you recover that? And again, if you say you've spent all of that for 5%, how much capitalization are we having? So these are issues that have not been addressed, and we're asking the question, how do we move from here? How do you do this without creating a distortion in the market? How do you do this without killing off entrepreneurs that have spent so much money of their hard-earned income to put this together?
Well, I think Hadi
The courts
Sirika...
will have the answer to that.
No, even Hadi Sirika, before the court, adjudicates in the matter before it, he's got so much to tell the Nigerian public, and Iyayi has raised those questions. I think it behoves on us too to invite him, Honorable Minister of Aviation. Anytime, any day, you have the platform, right of reply. Thank you so very much, Roland Iyayi, former Managing Director and CEO of Nigeria
Airspace Management
NAMA.
Authority,
Yeah.
is it?
Thank you.
Thank you so much.